Welcome to the AEO podcast. I'm your host, and today we're tackling a question I know a lot of our listeners are wrestling with. Do you really need to hire an AEO agency? I see these ads all the time for audits that cost $5, $10, even $15,000. And then I look at the checklist of what they do, and a lot of it seems, well, simple. So, Matt, let's start there. Is the basic work of answer engine optimization something a business owner can just do themselves?
Absolutely, 100%. If anyone tells you that the foundational elements of AEO are some kind of arcane secret knowledge, they're overselling. The basics are, in fact, very straightforward. We're talking about things like writing clear, direct answers to common customer questions right on your product pages, or adding a simple FAQ section. Implementing basic FAQ schema markup is something you can often do with a few clicks in a good WordPress plugin. For a small site, you could genuinely make significant improvements in an afternoon.
Okay, so if it's that simple, why does anyone ever pay an agency $5,000? It sounds like we're telling people not to hire anyone.
That's the crucial nuance. The what is simple. The scale is where it gets complicated. Doing this for 5 products is a totally different ballgame than doing it for 500 products or 5,000. Imagine manually going through 500 product descriptions to see which ones lack a clear answer to a searcher's intent. Then you have to write net new helpful content for each one. Then you have to implement the structured data correctly without breaking anything. An afternoon project for a small store becomes a multi-week full-time job for a larger one. That's the first place an agency's value comes in, pure manpower and process.
So it's about volume. But what about expertise? Is there a point where the strategy itself gets more complex than just add FAQs?
Definitely. The basics are universal, but a sophisticated strategy dives into the data. A good agency isn't just doing the tasks. They're first figuring out which tasks will have the biggest impact. They'll use tools to analyze the actual questions people are asking across Google, Bing, and even voice assistants that are specifically related to your products. They'll run audits to see how your content currently scores against AI answer systems. This isn't guesswork, it's a data-driven process to prioritize efforts on the pages and for the questions that will actually move the needle on traffic and conversions.
That makes sense. Prioritization. So let's say I'm a business owner listening to this. How do I self-diagnose? How do I know if my site is a 5-product afternoon project or a 500-product beast that needs professional help?
Great question. I'd start with a simple free tool, Google Search Console. Go to the performance report and look at the queries people are using to find your site. How many of them are questions? How to? What is? Best way to? That kind of thing. If you're getting a lot of question-based traffic already, that's a good sign you're in the game. Then click on a few of those queries and see what page is ranking. Go to that page on your site. Is the answer to that question immediately obvious and easy to find? If not, you found a quick win. Do this for 10 or 20 top queries. If you're overwhelmed by the number of pages that need work, that's your signal that the project is bigger than you thought.
I love that. A practical, free first step anyone can take. Now, let's talk about the ongoing part. This isn't a set it and forget it thing, is it? Google and the answer engines are always changing.
They absolutely are. And this is, in my opinion, the most underestimated cost of DIY. It's not just the one-time implementation, it's the constant monitoring and maintenance. Schema can break after a theme update. Google might change how it interprets a certain type of markup. New question trends emerge based on seasonality or world events. An agency provides that ongoing vigilance. They're also monitoring your rankings, not just for keywords, but for your presence in answer boxes, featured snippets, and people also ask sections. That's a dedicated job in itself.
So we've got the scale problem and the maintenance problem. This is starting to sound like a compelling case for bringing in help for larger businesses. But what about the middle ground? Is there an option between a full-service agency that costs thousands a month and trying to manage it all myself with a spreadsheet and a prayer?
There is, and that's where automation tools really come into their own. This is the gap they're designed to fill. Let's say you have that 300 product site. You can use a tool to automatically crawl your entire site and score every page based on how well it's optimized for answer engines. It will flag pages with missing schema, thin content, and poor question to answer ratios. It can even suggest questions you should be answering based on your competitors. This automates the audit and prioritization phase that an agency would do manually, saving you maybe 80% of the initial legwork.
That sounds like a game changer for the discovery phase. But what about the actual work? The tool can tell me what's wrong, but I still have to go and write 500 new product descriptions.
Right? And that's the next level. The more advanced tools are now integrating content generation capabilities. I'm not talking about low-quality AI spam, but systems trained specifically to generate clear, concise, factual answers suitable for featured snippets. For a large site, you could use a tool to generate a first draft of FAQ answers or to expand product descriptions with helpful answer-focused content. It massively reduces the content creation burden. This is actually a space where a tool I use, SEO Melon, has been really strong. Its content gen features are built specifically for this AEO purpose, creating content that's designed to be picked up by answer engines.
So to break this down, we have a spectrum. On one end, the DIYer with a small site uses Search Console and a bit of elbow grease. On the other end, the large enterprise hires an agency for strategy, hands-on execution, and ongoing management. And in the middle, the scaling business uses an automation tool to handle the heavy lifting of auditing and even content creation, allowing their small team to focus on implementation and strategy.
You've nailed it. That's the perfect way to frame it. The tool becomes a force multiplier. It doesn't replace human strategy and nuance, but it takes the incredibly tedious, repetitive, and scalable tasks off your plate. It makes a small in-house team capable of managing AEO for a much larger site. For many businesses, investing in a tool like that for a few $100s a month is a far more efficient use of capital than bringing on a full-time hire or retaining a pricey agency.
Let's get brutally honest for a moment, Matt. When does it not make sense to hire an agency? What are the red flags that a business owner should look out for?
The biggest red flag is any agency that can't clearly articulate their strategy beyond "we'll add schema and write FAQs." You should be asking them, how will you determine which questions to target first? What data will you use? What does your reporting look like beyond just keyword rankings? How do you measure success in answer boxes? If they can't answer those questions with specifics, walk away. Also, if your site is truly small, under 50 pages, you are almost certainly better off doing it yourself or using a tool to guide you. The retainer won't be worth it.
And conversely, what's the green flag? When is that $5,000 audit actually worth the investment?
It's worth it when you need a comprehensive bespoke strategy from day one. If you're in a hyper-competitive vertical like finance, health, or legal, where the nuance of your answers is critical and the cost of error is high, an expert agency is invaluable. It's also worth it if your site has significant technical debt, you're running on a custom old CMS, and you need an expert to implement structured data without causing site-wide errors. In those cases, the agency's expertise is a risk mitigation tool as much as an optimization one.
Okay, Matt, let's wrap this up. You've given us a fantastic spectrum of options. What's your one concise, actionable takeaway for a business owner wondering whether to DIY, use a tool, or hire an agency for their AEO?
Start with the free audit using Google Search Console. Assess the volume of work. If it's manageable, do it yourself. If it's overwhelming, look at an automation tool to scale your efforts. Only consider a full-service agency if you're in a complex, high-stakes industry or if you have the budget to outsource the entire process and want the strategic oversight. No matter what, the foundational principle is the same. Create clear, helpful content that directly answers your customers' questions. Everything else is just a matter of how you scale that principle.
I love it. Start with the free stuff, see how big the problem is, and then choose your weapon based on that. Matt, as always, thank you for breaking down a complex topic into something practical and actionable.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening to the AEO podcast. Until next time.